Well, good morning, church. Thank you for joining us for our daily Devo. Today, we're in Matthew chapter 11. Again, a great chapter. I want to focus on the very first part where Jesus talks about prayer. First, if you study the life of Christ, there's so much, compressed. Matter of fact, John says that if we wrote everything Christ did, the books could not be contained in the world. Now, he's just trying to say that he did so much that he knew of the other gospels that had been written by then. He wrote a gospel and he realized that there was so much that Christ did that couldn't be recorded. Now, if we look at prayer, we definitely see it standing out in Christ's life. We see him praying at his baptism. We see him praying before he chooses his disciples. We see him, praying many times off to himself. We see him praying in private, praying in public, praying for Simon, praying at the garden before he's going to be arrested, praying on the cross. We see his life is marked by prayer. And here, we see that because we see the disciples saying, Lord, teach us to pray, because they'd seen that focused in his life. And then he gives what is an outline, a small section. It's called the Lord's Prayer. It's expanded in Matthew. And I've always liked in Matthew, when I teach that section, to say this is not something to be memorized, to be said. And we've kind of done that. Instead, it's an outline. And you can really take that passage in Matthew and break it down. So the fact that Luke gives a more summarized one, I think, again, leads to the point this isn't a prayer to memorize, but it's an outline to follow, that we should consistently pray and pray to God. But after Jesus gives this outline, he gives a story. And I love the story because it's to challenge us when it comes to prayer. And he shares of a person who, again, he's had a friend show up late at night and he's hungry. He has nothing to set before him, nothing to give him. And so he goes to a neighbor who he knows has bread. Maybe he smelled the bread being baked that day. Maybe he saw it, and he knocks on the door. And though the guy's a friend, he says, listen, I'm in bed. I'm with my kids. I can't help you. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm that kind of person. I don't like stirring things up. I just walked away. But he doesn't. He continues to knock and knock and knock. And finally he gets up, and it says that he gives him the bread, not because he was his friend, but he gives him the bread because of literally it means his impertinence. He wouldn't stop knocking. And he knew if he didn't answer, it's going to ruin his reputation. So, he does that as an example, obviously explaining that God's not like that friend. God is wanting you to knock. So he goes on to say that we should ask and we will receive. We should seek and we will find. We should knock and the door will be opened. And each of those terms are used in the Greek. It says, literally means keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking. In other words, wear him out. God is saying, I want you to be persistent in prayer. I want you to knock until you have an answer. And I love that picture that this person's driven to the neighbor because there's nothing he can do about it. See, we should be driven to God and in prayer because there's issues that are bigger than us. If a friend comes to you and says, I have cancer, you can't heal cancer. You're not a doctor to take it away, but you can go to God and God have nothing to set before this person. A person, maybe they need a job and you can't employ them. You don't know a job, but you can go to God and say, God, open up a job. They may have an emotional, different time need. There's different needs at times we have to acknowledge we can't do anything about. But guess what? We can take it to God and he can do something about it. Jesus' life was marked by prayer. Not prayer as a last resort, but prayer as a first choice. And I think that's one of our challenges. See, for us, we see that little square on the wall that says break the glass when needed, and it says prayer. And we kind of see prayer as an emergency when everything else fails. And prayer really should be the thing that we go to before we try everything else. It's a challenge for me. I'm a fixer. I want to do it. And, before I do, I should go to God and say, God, can you do? Can you step in? Can you meet that need? Because ultimately, he's the one who can. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for our Daily Devo. I hope you continue every day and hope you have a blessed day.